Dead bodies from drive-by shootings, mothers sobbing over their lost sons, women scrubbing blood off the sidewalks in front of their homes, all in a night's work for Ken Harrison when he was a street cop in South Central LA. Take a look.
Ken Harrison is a former LAPD officer and U.S. Marine. He's witnessed both the good and the bad sides of men. Today, he's the CEO of Promise Keepers. Ken believes there's a lot of bad information about what true masculinity is in our society today. In his book, Rise of the Servant Kings, Ken equips men to confidently step into their roles in marriages, families, work, and friendships with newfound strength and embrace God's plans for their lives.
Please welcome to the 700 Club, Ken Harrison. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
You wanted to be a police officer from the time you were a young kid. Where did that come from?
Oh, my dad. My dad was a policeman. He was shot and died.
Family
South
heritage.
Central.
Whoa.
And moved us up to Portland, Oregon, and got saved when he got up there. And so, like a typical kid, I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps.
Yeah. You know, as a police officer, you learned firsthand about human nature, particularly men. What did you learn during that time, Ken?
Well, you know, it wasn't just from being a police officer, it was also from being in business. So after I left the LAPD, one of the lessons I had to learn was that bad guys don't just dress up in gang clothes and have guns. Bad guys often have suits and ties, and bad ladies have nice dresses. And there's, greed and sin and perversion don't stop with our education level or our financial level.
I loved your book. I felt like it was for women as much as I know it's geared to men, but the message is really for all of us. But your title, Rise of the Servant Kings. What do you mean by servant kings?
Yeah, the book it's a discipleship book written in men's clothes with macho stories, but it really is a discipleship book for everybody. A servant king, we're all called to be kings, men, in our space, which means we're accountable to make a difference where we are. Isaiah 1 says that we need to care for the poor and the oppressed, stand up for justice, and be jealous for God's name. And if we're single, we do that where we are. If we're married, we're responsible for the spiritual state of our wives and our children. And it's a servant. It's not being a ruler. It's really laying down our rights to ourselves. As we're told in Ephesians 5:25, men, love your wives like Christ loved the church. And how did he love her? He was tortured to death for her.
Yeah. So where are we falling short?
Men don't know who they are anymore.
Why?
Well, I think Satan's been laying down this track for a long, long time. And we have not stood up with each other. You know, men like Judge Vance Day in Oregon, they have been eviscerated by a secularist press. And when that happens to them, we haven't as a church stood up with each other and said, no, I'm standing for justice. And even if it costs me, I'm going to stand for what's right because I'm a child of God. And we've forgotten as men, as Christians, really, that we're sons and daughters of God. But as men, we've forgotten who we are. And God says who we are, not society, not a worldly press. The Bible is where we learn who we are to be a man, as men.
So how do we get that back for men in our culture? Because that is a God plan.
Yeah, well, we need to have pastors who start declaring God's word from the pulpit with boldness, courage, and humility. And we, the Bible teaches older men teach the younger men. Older women teach the younger women. We as men need to start teaching the younger men. And there's so many single moms today who have sons who say, how's my son going to learn how to be a man? Who will teach him? You know, if we all in our churches just started to take, just an hour, 2 hours, meet with a boy who doesn't have a dad and teach him what it means to be a man, we could change society.
Boy, it really requires some self-sacrifice, though, and in our culture today, we seem to run from that.
It's because we don't know how we're being judged.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, his grace is so amazing, but when I get to heaven, I want to hear him say, well done, my good and faithful servant. You took what I gave you and you did something with it. So what is our prize? What are we living our life for? Is it to make more money or to have the world tell we did a great job? Or do we want to hear Jesus say, that you're my man, you did a good job?
How about women? What can women do to help get this back on track?
Women can encourage their husbands. 1 Peter gives women instructions. Boy, it's amazing what a godly woman can do. We see in James what happens when one godly person prays like Elijah. It didn't rain for 3 years out his prayer, and then he prayed and it rained. Yeah. If women were on their knees praying and encouraging their husbands, that could have a huge difference.
Yeah, it's always so blatant to me that when we're told how we are to relate to each other as husbands and wives, husbands are told to love their wives, as you mentioned, sacrificially, but women are told to respect their husbands. And their men really need that from the women in their lives, whether it's a wife, a mother, whoever.
It's amazing, you know, and especially with so many fatherless men or men who had bad fathers, they need to be affirmed as a man. And it's amazing what a wife could do if she respected her husband. And the Bible commands women to respect their husbands. It doesn't say if they're respectable.
If they're respectable.
Which is
yeah,
tough.
boy, that
Really
is a tough one.
Yeah.
That is a tough one. Talk a little bit about Promise Keepers, because I remember when Promise Keepers first started, it was just such a huge movement. And you were meeting in large stadiums around the country, and there was a lot of publicity about that. What's Promise Keepers doing today?
We are back. We are back
Well,
as to
yay.
who we are. Yeah, July 31st and August 1st of 2020, not 2019. So don't show up at Dallas Cowboy Stadium this year. You'll be alone.
In a fine stadium,
It'll just
but
be
you'll
really
be there
hot.
alone. Yeah.
Promise Keepers' identity was NFL stadium events. And that's what we needed to get back to. And it also, we need to get straight back to teaching men to be men of God and to preach his word with boldness and courage, as I said earlier, without apology. And so we're going to get incoming. So the world's going to tell us we're bad people. So what? Yeah. We're going to declare his word. And the two things I've heard so often, men saying the feeling of 70,000 men singing hymns is unbelievable. Men in tears have told me that, of just how moved they were. And I think it's because there's a feeling that I'm not alone, that look at all these guys, I'm not all alone. The second thing I've heard is from younger men in their late 30s to early 40s saying, I went when I was a teenager with my dad, and it was the most amazing moment of my life because he was real and he told me he loved me for the first time. And I want to bring my son to that. So.
But there's so much in your book about that, about what it is to be a real man, about what it means to really surrender to Christ. I guess that's what I related to. I thought those qualities are for all of us. Just want to say, Ken's book is called The Rise of the Servant Kings. Hey, Father's Day's coming up. It's a great gift for the man in your life. It's available wherever books are sold. And you can also hear more from Ken on our Facebook page. All you have to do is go to facebook.com/700 Club. Great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful book.